It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Fabulous.
Yeah. That sounds real sincere now, doesn't it? I know. Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy? What documentary have we seen?
That's what I say. I've been watching more documentaries. Actually, I kind of fell down a rabbit hole. Me and a friend was talking actually about Hawaii, and we were talking about the lava spill that happened a few years back. And she was telling me there's actually a place in Hawaii where there's still like live lava that hits the water. And it's like, after a while, doesn't that add like land mass? You're talking about lava, which is rock, hitting water, it's going to harden. So
that is literally why there are islands there.
Yeah. Well, and I got some digging, and I found out that the last lava flow that they had, it added, I think they said 1.5 miles onto the island. So you're talking about quite a bit of growth there. I don't know if any of it's habitable because it's all, lava. But they did say that they had... It
cools eventually.
Right, but it's still kind of, I guess when I think lava rocks, I think of the things that you put in your charcoal oven or the grill outside, the lava rocks. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't want to step on those. They're real porous and almost can cut you, Mm-hmm. But they did say that in one part of this area, I don't know if it's a private beach now because of the lava flow or what, but it's a black beach, like black sand and everything from where the lava's hit the water and it's ground up and washed back and forth, and that now it's put all this black sand up on the beach. So it was like, Gothic beach, that's pretty cool. But of course, after I answered my first question, YouTube has a wonderful thing where they keep popping up. Maybe you would like this. So there's one, I posted it in Discord. It's on Mount St. Helens. Now, I was 4, almost 5 when it erupted. I remember vaguely. I remember we talked about it in school later, but, like I said, I would have been pre-K at the time. But, I know the basic facts. The side of the mountain blew off, killed a lot of the forest and that kind of thing. But this one's kind of like a Dateline kind of documentary where they take you second by second of what was happening. And there was like 4 different people, two groups of them were camping. I don't know. If somebody tells me, hey, this lava, this volcano is about to explode, my first idea isn't, hey, let's go camping right next to it.
How much warning was there really? I don't remember. I was a kid too, obviously.
Weeks.
Was it?
Smoke spewed from this thing for weeks, and the side of the mountain kept bulging and bulging and bulging. So the geologists were like, hey, guys, this thing's about to blow. I can't tell you when because we didn't have the detections like we do now.
Because it's 1980, and we don't
know. And they're like, but, this is not normal. This should not be happening, But after a couple of weeks went by, people were like, nah, nothing's going to happen. Let us back into our homes and blah, 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 blah. So people didn't take it seriously. So when this thing blew, it was bad. I forget how many miles of forest they said this thing destroyed. There was smoke all the way to Oklahoma from this thing. The weather tracking systems like tracked all the smoke pretty much all the way across. I mean, I don't know. And like I said, some of it, I hate to sound so totally unsympathetic here, but I can't feel sorry for somebody who got trapped in a volcano when you were told not to be there. When somebody steps in and says, hey, there's a volcano or hurricane or tornado or something, you take notice because weather is so unpredictable. We've gotten better with our technology now, but even now things can change so quickly that you can't track that. You have an ideal something bad might happen, but you don't know when, or, all of a sudden this cloud, comes in and hits another one, and boom, you've got a tornado on the ground. So, things happen so rapidly that you really have to pay attention to the people who know this stuff, Jimmy Carter came on.
We're not big on that in this country.
Right. I don't get it. I myself, I would never live near a volcano. I would never live near a fault line. I would never live near the ocean. I mean, there's all kinds. After the weekend of watching that I did, there's a lot of things I won't live by no more.
But so should we forward your mail to Omaha?
Right. I'm fine. Smack dab in Texas.
I'm thinking the International Space Station.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Fuck this planet.
I can watch
this planet's trying to kill me. What the hell?
So living in Tornado Alley, good choice. Yeah.
We don't have a lot of tornadoes here, and we have early detection for those that have hit here. We've had plenty of warnings.
Define early. I mean,
well, the one that hit
weeks.
Garland, we knew it was coming. Our sirens went off. Heck, I was standing at the back door. I didn't know it at the time, but I was looking at the tornado. It was dark and it looked like it was lit up green.
That's the trick about tornadoes is they're dark.
Yeah.
And so when they show up at night, they're hard to see. Strangely enough.
But oh man, one thing that's really unpredictable: tsunamis. I can't tell you how many videos I've watched on tsunamis this week, and
I think you're safe. I think your house is cool.
Right,
I think it's okay.
I think we're good.
You're okay from a tsunami.
But those things hit, and there's no warning. There's absolutely no warning. Indonesia, that was hit really hard. Was it Krakatoa that went off? Pretty much Krakatoa burped.
Maybe? Yeah.
It didn't even explode. It burped. It let up some fumes and stuff, and just by it shaking a little, man, tsunami came and totaled the whole town. We're talking like over 2,000 people dead. That's some scary shit. And then you feel bad because I'm sitting here watching it, and I'm watching these waves and stuff, and it's like, weather is so freaking beautiful. I mean, it's amazing. Like, a tsunami, it's amazing how calm the wave is that's about to kill you. I think that's a lot of times why people don't take it seriously, is because they don't understand the force that nature can have, because it is beautiful, but at the same time, it's deadly. I mean, Mount St. Helens with that smoke, the way it was doing all the circles and everything, it was gorgeous. But at the same time, you're like, that's 900 tons of ash going up in the air that's killing people, and you're sitting here going, oh, it's so beautiful.
Right. And it's the fuse for the whole side of the mountain exploding.
Yeah.
And that's the part that people forgot.
They have a picture of that. A guy was doing like a time lapse, and man, you see it come up, and then it's like the whole side of it just sloughed right off. To see the ground do that, it was like, wow. I mean, they said that Mount St. Helens had been burping, and that the top of the volcano had actually been capped off by ash and hardened lava and that kind of thing. So when all the gas started piling up, that's what created the bubble on the side because it had nowhere to go at that point. Its only exit had been sealed off. So, of course, I hate to put it this way, but it's kind of like a bad fart. You ain't stopping it. It's going to come out somewhere,
Wow.
And that's what it did. It farted right out the side of the mountain, That there's been a lot of them that, I think it was Krakatoa. There was people up there. Now they had told him, hey guys, we're getting some very strange readings off of this. We really think it's going to explode. This is the red zone. Nobody in the red zone. And then you've got these freaking idiots up there with cameras wanting to take a picture. Well, of course they died. I mean, duh, hello. You can't outrun a volcano. You can't outrun a tornado. It's just stay away from them.
You can't roller skate in a buffalo herd either. But...
You just grab a tail and hang on.
Now, I have gone to one of the volcanoes in Hawaii and trekked down into the volcano itself. Now, it is a volcano that's dormant.
Yeah.
But it's pretty amazing to know that this was once just god awful strong.
Yeah, deadly. And Hawaii does have a lot of dormant volcanoes. I think they spewed their spew and created the island, and that's what you got.
Yeah, it is.
But that'd be pretty cool. I think a non-dormant one I would want to see,
From a distance.
But like most of these are people telling them, hey, we've gotten some major activity going on. We don't think you should be here. And they're like, let me grab my camera.
These are the same people that pull out their phones when the police arrive.
Yeah.
So.
Or the ones who run to their backyard when there's a tornado coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. But from volcanoes and tsunamis and, one other one. There's a place called Hell's Gate. I don't remember exactly where it's at. But in 1968, they were doing excavation for a mine. And they found this big pocket of gas underneath the surface. So their bright idea, let's throw a grenade on it. Today, this thing is still on fire from that. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they call it, Hell's Gates. But they're like, maybe we should try to find ways to put this out. And it's like, you think?
Wow.
This thing's been going for 40 years, and let's find a way now to put it out.
It's Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken. Because I've heard the stories about a fire that's still going on.
Yeah, because I guess they didn't realize that this pocket of gas came from somewhere. The gas just didn't go bloop, and there it was. It has somewhere that it's feeding from. So they're lucky nobody was hurt when they did what they did. But now it's like this big freaking huge crater that's on fire. It's like, damn. And I guess
the fires in Ohio.
Well, it reminded me of The Simpsons with the huge magnifying glass that has the tires on fire that it's pointing down to. And they don't know how to put the tire fire out. Well, move the magnifying glass. But it's kind of one of those things.
Well, how do you unthrow a grenade into a gas jet? I don't quite, yeah.
You call Mr. Peabody and have him take care of it.
It was pretty bad. I'm glad they have a little more thinking behind that. And see, and that one actually came up with dam failures because, that's usually what produces a tsunami. If it's not a volcano, more than likely it's a dam failure somewhere. And those two, once again, I know it killed hundreds of people and it was multi-million, if not billion-dollar cleanups, but there was one, it was a man-made reservoir, and it was at 90% capacity. And the people who worked there were like, dude, we're about to get a lot of rain, so maybe we should let some of this water out because I don't think we can hold anymore, So they did. They brought it down to 80% capacity. Well, they had also noticed that at the base of the dam, it stayed wet. There wasn't like a leak necessarily, but it just stayed wet. So they told the guy who does the safety checks and stuff, they're like, dam shouldn't be leaking, and 15 minutes before this happened, the safety checks said it was okay. Everything was fine. Well, in those 15 minutes, since it was a man-made reservoir, the mountain that it was up against was not used to that. So the mountain itself had become waterlogged from setting in water like that all this time. So I think they said it was 1 billion cubic ton of rock just went bloop, straight down. I mean, you could just see it was like something just pushed it and it just rolled straight down. Well, it was bad enough because it pushed all the water in front up over the dam, which busted the dam, which of course went down into the town, killed thousands of people. But what was even worse is there was two impacts because you also have the water that was behind this thing. So it sent a tsunami pretty much in both directions from where the rock was. So it backed up into the lake, which of course once again went upstream, killed hundreds of people up there, all because one guy didn't do his safety check like he was supposed to. I mean, could you imagine, though?
In all fairness, he's checking the dam itself. He's not necessarily checking what it's sitting on. I could see where his job would be like, okay, it's okay to assume that the side of the mountain is stable. Because that's not his gig. He's just looking at the dam. He's an engineer. He's not a geologist.
Well, they do have environmental engineers, which are on regular payroll for these places because that's part of their job is to test these areas and continue. They're supposed to take samples. And had he, since years of this thing, being there, had he been taking the samples that he was supposed to have been taking, he would have found out, hey, this mountain's waterlogged. We're going to have to raise or, lower the dam to much lower capacity than what we're at right now because they kept it at 90% capacity most of the time. But when the water pushed up over it, it also caused the dam to break, which was not supposed to happen. There was like a gate that the hinge busted because of corrosion or something like that. So the plan B, if plan A isn't working, plan B should, and it's another spillway that should have taken the grunt of most of this water. Well, that's where the gate broke. So by the time all of this was said and done and, the whole little town down below is completely wiped out and covered in, I think they said like 10 feet of mud right now, the lake was drained 30% capacity. So it's kind of like devastated the whole area now because somebody didn't do the safety checks like they were supposed to do. They should have checked the mountain, and they definitely should have checked the hinges that hold the doors down to the dam, because those doors don't remain shut all the time. They're use those to open and close to keep the water levels and stuff out. But what made it worse is the company who owned that, like 2 months prior, had another dam accident, and pretty much same thing, lots of fatalities, shoddy construction was done. So it was pretty bad. I don't think I'd let them people build any more dams. I'd be like, damn you. No more dams. But I don't know if, could you imagine, though, being responsible for thousands of people's lives? You know, that's riding on your shoulders because you didn't do your job, and now these thousands of people are dead. When it would have taken you maybe 30 minutes a day to do extra what you were supposed to be doing, you know, what we paid you to do for us anyways. But when all of this happened, the government stepped in and stated that even like amusement parks and stuff now, you can't perform your own safety inspection, which should have been that way to begin with, you know. Of course, I'm going to be like, yeah, my house is fine. But an inspector come in, they'd be like, you know, you need to do this to the windows, because they don't care. They don't have any money invested in here. And the same way with the dams, you need to have someone come in who, I don't care how many billions of dollars you spent here. This shit's shoddy. Fix it. You know, don't make me bring the government in. So, and that's what a lot of these dam failures were. It wasn't even a case of nature. It was a case of if a person in charge would have been keeping a better eye on the nature around them, it could have been prevented and not happened. Instead of keeping the dam and waterlogging the mountain, they should have figured that out pretty quick. And, you know, we have a plan A in place and a plan B. What's plan C? You know, if all of this shit goes wrong, what are we going to do? Because whether they like it or not, there's thousands of people who live around these things, you know? Plus their own employees. They were eating lunch in the cafeteria looking at this thing when it exploded on them. So not only did they lose citizens, they lost employees that day too. And it's crazy because most of the dam accidents are here in America, which I was like, wow, that's so bizarre because, you know, we have things like the EPA and all kinds of things that I thought were pretty hard and, you know, but I guess what I'm thinking of today and the precautions we have is because of things like this. We've had to tighten our belt. One dam, it wasn't even water. It was sludge from their machines and, you know, toxic waste that they spewed out on a town.
Yeah,
and then they had
for every regulation you get from a government, you've got 5 companies working really hard and spending a lot of money to get around them.
Mm-hmm. To find the loophole. Mm-hmm. And what's sad is that loophole is people's lives, you know. I was also watching a thing on amusement parks. I don't do roller coasters. No.
Go figure.
No. I'll do the little swings and that kind of thing, but no roller coasters. So, of course, me and Phil watched a thing about like 15 of the most deadliest roller coasters. And I was happy that not a lot of those were here. It's like Germany and Russia and those kind of places, because it's like, wow. Now, I don't ride them, but my kids and my husband do. So, but most of the ones they reported on, Six Flags.
Six Flags was a company that owned a lot of amusement parks for a while there. So, yeah, half the amusement parks in the country were Six Flags.
Well, 2 of the 15, you know, because it was top 15, 2 of the 15 were here in Texas. One in Fort Worth and one in Dallas. The one in Dallas happened, I think it was 2019, when the lady fell out the side and died. And then there was another one. It was a Superman ride. It shot you straight up in the air, like 30 feet, and then it drops you. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the cliffhanger, but no, you know.
No cage, yeah.
No, yeah. Well, no cage and no turn. It goes straight up and straight down.
Right.
Well, when it went up...
It's an awesome ride, by the way.
Well, halfway up, the cable breaks, and it falls down on the girl who's sitting on the outside. You know, she's a 13-year-old girl. Falls down, and it tangles around her feet. And so she's screaming, let me off, stop, stop, stop. The guy who's working the ride said he heard it pop. If he would have hit the stop button, fine. But instead, it took him all the way up and dropped him, and it cut off both of her feet.
Mm-hmm. I remember hearing this.
So Superman was looked into and was taken out quietly. They took him out of, that happened in San Antonio, but they even took the one out here in Arlington down because they're like,
Because it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're like, no way. And they were able, good news, they was able to save one of the girl's foot, one of her foot, but not the other. And of course, they said that was a 7-figure settlement that was undisclosed and kept quiet,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't have to announce that when it's not in the courts.
Yeah. But, it was even rides that I felt were safe, like the log ride. No.
Oh, yeah, no, those things are not safe at all.
Yeah. Well, I remember it being called the Roaring Rapids.
That's a different ride, but yeah.
Now, they had a baby. I say baby. He was 3 years old. That was sucked down into one of its mechanisms. And I'm thinking, why was the baby outside of the boat?
Probably because the restraints were not built to hold somebody that small.
Yeah, maybe so. I hadn't thought of that.
He slipped out of a seatbelt. Because you're strapped into that ride. I've been on it a few times. You're strapped in. But I'm not a 3-year-old.
Yeah, true. And seeing a lot of the accidents that were reported were kids. And all of them were, all but, the drowning and stuff was safety failures, the harnesses that keep you in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, wow.
Okay.
Which they've said now that there are regulations on certain rides that go a certain speed or make a certain angle of turn. They can no longer just use the lap bands. They have to have the shoulder restraints and stuff too. The lady at Six Flags, what killed her was she wasn't able to button her seatbelt all of the way. So instead of putting it around her stomach the way it was meant to, she put it around like the top of her thighs and buckled it that way. And
popped right out.
Popped right out. Yep. Another lady, I know from the ones that I've rode that when they put it down, there's 2 clicks. Well, she told the guy there was only 1 click. It didn't click the second time. Well, he came by and popped it and shook it, and he was like, "Oh, you'll be okay." She wasn't. That seatbelt popped right open, and she flew out of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, wow. And the whole time I'm watching this, I'm looking at Phil, and it's like, you see? This is why I don't ride. All the little anxieties in my head, these were the stories of the things I've thought before.
You really shouldn't be watching a show like this.
Right.
It's not good for you.
Oh, I watched tons of them, man. It was like one right after another. It was like, golly.
Fuel to the fire.
Those incidents, and I'm not justifying anything here, but those incidents are so rare. You are safer on a roller coaster than almost anywhere else. You're safer on a roller coaster than you are on an airplane. And airplanes are infinitely safer than cars.
Yeah.
See, I don't fly either.
Yeah, but you do drive.
Yeah, I do drive occasionally. But...
You are not nearly as, you are way more likely to get into a car wreck than to fall off a roller coaster.
Now I don't drive anymore. Thanks, Mikey.
Uh-huh. just trying to do my part, Because it's not you that's the problem. It's them other idiots out there.
Yeah. They don't know how to drive.
That is going to be my goal when I teach my kid how to drive a car. Is like, okay, look, I don't have any problem trusting you. Everybody else is an idiot.
Yeah, you've constantly got
to drive. To keep an eye. You've got to watch them all because you never know what those idiots are going to do.
Yep.
That is how I'm going to teach my kid to drive.
The way I taught mine. And knock on wood, none of them have been in accidents so far.
There you go.
Yep.
Les, I don't know if you caught that, but he said, it's not you, it's the other idiots.
Yeah.
Hey, wait!
Did I say that?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, you did.
Well, I love you too, Mike.
Maybe I should rephrase that. Maybe
it's too late now.
maybe it's backpedal time. I don't know.
Back over.
And now we have, no pun intended, Discord.
Hey, I got no problem with that kind of Discord. Hail Eris.
But yeah, if you guys want to check that out, I think the name of the YouTube channel is called Top 5. And although they say Top 5, there's usually 15 stories that they go into. Pretty interesting, like I said. They've got all kinds of things from roller coasters to tsunamis, volcanoes, whatever your evil is, it's there.
Yeah, top 5 lists are big on YouTube. You can find literally anything in a top 5 list.
Yeah.
If you look hard enough.
Like I said, the Mount St. Helens one is really, if you guys just want to refresh your memory, that one's really, really interesting. I don't think I normally my ADD gets me and I pause things and walk off. I don't think I even walked off from that one. It was just kind of like, oh my God, what happens next? I know what happened next, but what happened next?
Right, but you're into it now.
Yeah.
In other words, a lot of fun and positivity in the Newman house last week.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like it.
Yeah, I had other things, but I've talked too long, so y'all go ahead.
Okay. I'll try to keep my documentary short. It's a pretty simple one. I mean, it's a really good one. I moseyed over to Netflix to see what they had because I hadn't looked on there in a while. And I found one called Clive Davis, The Soundtrack of Our Lives. It's a pretty interesting story. If you are not aware, Clive Davis was a record executive. He started out at Columbia Records and then moved on to found a string of other record companies over the course of a 50-year career. And I'm not, this documentary was 2017. He's probably still around. I'm not sure. I did not think to look. I'm terrible about that. But he was instrumental in essentially making rock and roll what it is today, and honestly then turned around and did that for several other different genres of music, because he like the first thing he did when he became a music executive, when he basically took over at Columbia, was go to the Monterey Pop Festival. So, and start signing people.
Wow.
Which is a pretty good place to start. This guy's career is an amazing string of lucky breaks. And honestly, that's not to slight his talent. He is really good at putting material with artists and knowing just an instinctive knowledge of what's going to be really popular, and did it his whole life. This was the guy who brought us, like I said, Janis Joplin, Bruce Springsteen, Whitney Houston.
Dang.
He basically found and created Whitney Houston.
Created stars.
Oh yeah, big time. And that's just the beginning. That's the tip of the iceberg. So yeah, one hell of a career, and an interesting guy, and by his own admission, a ridiculously lucky guy too. So yeah, and obviously some really cool and interesting music along the way. So this is a documentary that is definitely worth checking out.
Huh.
He celebrated his 89th birthday in April, so he's still with
He is
us.
still around. Cool.
That's cool. I'll have to check that one out.
Yep.
Maybe it'll be a nice calming influence for
so
you.
explosive. Huh?
Yeah, maybe not quite so horrific. There are almost no explosions in music documentaries. I'm just saying.
Pyrotechnics.
Almost no
Okay.
explosions. Almost no explosions.
So wasn't it Whitesnake that torched their whole club venue and killed a couple hundred people because of theirs?
That was Great White.
Great White. Yep.
Close.
I knew it was white something. Damn rock hippies.
Hey, Michael Jackson got set on fire too, so.
Yep. By Pepsi, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he went over to the Coke commercials. That's his first rule: don't set me on fire.
Fire looks
Second
good.
rule is don't set me on fire.
Yep.
Right, I realized that sounded an awful lot like the first rule, but it seemed important enough to state twice.
For me, I was over in Irving and attended a wrestling match.
Ooh.
Professional wrestling is back,
Cool.
and it was fun to partake in this. I met the granddaughter of Fritz von Erich. Lacey von Erich is a former wrestler, and she is now one of the owners of the SEW, which is the Southwest Wrestling Entertainment. Now,
I didn't know there was any Von Erich still around.
Well, her uncle Kevin is in Hawaii and has a training ground there for wrestlers.
Kevin, like Carrie and David's brother?
Right.
Oh, I thought he was like one of the ones that died.
No, Kevin is still with us. Carrie, David, there was another C that passed away. Chris passed away. But Kevin is the uncle of Lacey, who is the daughter of Carrie.
That's cool.
Carrie has passed. So
kind of looking out for her.
I'm sorry?
So I guess he's kind of looking out for her.
Probably. It was fun to watch. In this brand of wrestling, there are no punches. You can't throw a punch. You can throw a forearm to the chest or the head or whatever, but no punches. And the first match was some lumbering oaf, and he was fighting a man named Enzo. Enzo was in the WWE at one time, and they said for 20-minute time limit, one fall. They introduce the guys. They introduce Enzo second. He gets into the ring. They ring the bell. Enzo goes up and cold cocks him, knocks him out. And they said, winner by forfeiture is this guy. Well, this just set it up for the main match, because Big Lumbering Fool came out and said, I want a rematch. So they had the match that night. It was, like I said, it was the finale. And it went about 15 minutes. Normally, when they say 20 minutes, you look to anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes. So this was fun. It was nice to be out and see people, get a couple of autographs, just sit and talk with fans. So I'm kind of looking forward to another venue. There is a match coming here in Garland about the third week of Garland. Third week of Garland. Third week of July. And it's going to be a national broadcast. So
cool.
I'm sure they will have people in the stands.
Nice.
That is cool.
Oh, and by the way, I did finish off LA's Finest, and I recommend it highly. It's just 2 seasons. It's about, I want to say 20, 22, or 24 episodes. Gabrielle Union and Jessica Sue Storm. Alba. Jessica Alba. It's a good story, and each season is a full story. There are other things happening, but there is a main story for each season. So yeah, take it up. It's fun to watch.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Yep.
Well, I took in a documentary. Make up for less not watching one. So,
Now I feel guilty.
it was interesting. I was kind of disappointed that this was obviously made for TV because it was only 51 minutes, and it just really wasn't enough time. It was called The Yellow Brick Road and Beyond. And this is the story of Frank Baum. There's about 20 minutes of his story of him, from being born through growing up and all that, and then eventually writing the Oz books. And then they spend about 20 minutes just on the 1939 film. And then the remaining 10 minutes or so is like everything after that. And it seems like they tried to cram it needed to be a little bit more compressed. But it was interesting. It was a good documentary. One thing I did not know is that he was a very sick kid. So he really didn't go to school. He was homeschooled. He didn't go out and play and all that. So he basically either read or created his own worlds from his bed. So that's where a lot of the stories had come from. That it's from stuff that he created as a child. And I also didn't know that there were several silent films made based off the books. There was just a handful of them. Now, just about all of them are no longer around. There's like one, I think, that came out like in 1910 or 1915, something like that. And boy, he as an adult, he did everything. He was in every profession you can think of. Was even a farmer. He got into drama and everything like that. But when he was writing the books, he was actually a traveling salesman, and he and his family were living in Chicago at the time. And then he finally quit when he released the first book and said, "Oh, okay, I can actually make a decent living writing the books." And at one point, he actually created a production company to film to do the movies, and unfortunately that had tanked, and he went into bankruptcy. But there was even Broadway shows back then based off some of the stories. I didn't know that. And of course they get into doing the 1939 film starring Julie Garland. And of course, as most people know, they originally were going to have Shirley Temple, but they decided against that. And apparently at one point when they first started filming, they had taken Judy Garland and put her like in a blonde wig and kind of made her a little bit more glamorous and all that. And they were like, no, she's supposed to be a kid from Kansas, so this doesn't work. Which, once again, I didn't know that either. There was 4 directors on that film. Did anybody know that? That there was, and it did not do well. It was overshadowed not only box office wise, but obviously Oscar wise by Gone with the Wind. Mm-hmm. So it was going to be just left in obscurity until basically television came around, and they pulled the film out, and they did so well. But I thought it was so funny as they got to that point, start talking about how well it started doing on TV in the 50s, because they showed it in color. But the majority of the TVs back then were black and white, so it's like, okay. So they spent all this time on this, which was really good. It was very informative, because a lot of this stuff I did not know. And then from then on, they were really, really quick. They briefly touched on the revival in the 70s, and and there was the Wiz, the black version of the story, and how that was on Broadway, and it was decided to make a movie on that. And it got as far as the Broadway play and an eventual movie of Wicked about the witches. Mm-hmm. So it was more. It's somewhat recent documentary, but it was so short, and it would have been nice to see a little bit more of what has happened since then. But it just. I mean, it was nice. It was nice watch. I saw it on Pluto, but it is on Amazon Prime, so you can be able to watch it there as well. And and they had some of the remaining actors that were the Munchkins, and of course they talked about that, and they kind of dispelled the rumor that they were big partiers. There was just all these outrageous stuff going on during the filming of the movie. They said that really, really didn't happen. So, it was kind of a fun thing to watch.
Cool.
Neat.
Yeah. Did they deny it because they were still liable, or?
Well, they might have denied it because they were still hungover, but who knows?
Yeah, that's possible. No. All right.
That brings up a good point.
What?
If you get the chance to go see it, go see Wicked. The story of how the evil witch became that. It's a good story, and it's a fine play.
Yeah, I had forgotten we were supposed to be reading that. I remember I think I asked you about it, but I don't think it went any further than that.
I think I've forgotten about that too.
Yeah.
Now I feel horrible.
Don't, because I forgot too.
Happy to help.
Right. And I talk to her every day, and she hasn't reminded me, so we're good.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah, let's just hide.
Yeah, we're good.
she's forgot about it until she hears this.
I was going
and
to
then
say,
she'll
I'm
go,
recording
oh, yeah.
this. You know that, right?
Right. She does listen to the show, so sorry, Susie.
Time to step up, I guess.
Yeah.
I also think we have a title for this one now, but anyway.
I think so, too.
But I have to brag just for 1 minute. Her husband opened a clinic and they were doing vaccinations. And as a couple of days ago, she sent me a picture, and she and, the people working with her have vaccinated 232,000 people so far.
Nice.
They've gotten so much percentage, I forgot what she said, how many percentage is vaccinated now, that they're actually closing the clinic down at the end of the month. So,
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
yeah, I told her, good job.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
I just saw something prior to our recording that they're going to shut down the site at State Fair at the end of sometime next month. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing them at all the pharmacies now, so.
Yeah.
That,
It's
and
easy
I
enough to
think
get.
now, like my doctor's office, you couldn't come in if you had a fever, and they'd want to do a telemedicine with you beforehand. But I think most people, me included, would feel more comfortable going to my doctor than some guy at the fair. But that's
Unless
just
it's
me.
big tax.
Yeah, that'd be a big needle. Hey, keep those.
Okay, before we get into this week's discussion, it was mentioned earlier, we do have a Discord. It was kind of mentioned, kind of.
It was tangentially brought up, yes.
Yeah. That you are more than welcome to come join. Sign up is free, and the app's free if you want to download it onto your phone or tablet or whatever. We post a lot of like news items, fun stuff, memes, have some discussions and some activities going on from time to time, and it's been kind of fun. So y'all are more than welcome to join us. You can go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and right there on the home page there is a invite that you can just click on that little image, and there you go. And like I said, everything's free.
Yeah.
Woo.
All right. For the next few weeks, next about 4 weeks, we are kind of doing a look back. With this being basically, this is our 6th year of recording. And at one point, I kind of went back and looked at some of the stuff that we had discussed that are our first year, because I couldn't remember. I mean, we do so many of these. But, I thought it just kind of occurred to me it would be nice to kind of go back and revisit some of these ideas or some of these topics and, kind of either update them or do something kind of new, that kind of thing. So with this week, the topic is remakes. If you're a longtime listener, you already know that we're kind of not big supporters of remakes, but we know that they're going to be done. But for episode 11, we decided to take some less regarded films, bad movies, and are they worthy of being remade and improved? So that's essentially what we'll be discussing today. We have a list. Each of us have kind of a couple picks of films that are bad that we felt are worthy of being remade. So with that all set up, who would like to nominate their first film?
I can go first. I'll
Okay.
get this one out of the way. I know I rag on him a lot, but my first movie is Sucker Punch by Zack Snyder. I wanted to love this movie. I really, 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 really did. But he never seemed to get past the video stage of it. I mean, it'd be an awesome music video. I've always loved his taste in music. It'd be an amazing video, but as far as a movie goes, it just didn't quite hit it there. So for my remake, I'm going to take the same movie. I'm going to dial down some of the music, and this film was like 3 layers. You had the real world, the asylum level, and the club level. Confusing, right?
Depends on how you
So-
do it, but yeah.
Right. So we're just going to take out the real world. There's no need to know how she got there. We don't know why the other girls are there. We don't need to know why Baby's there. Don't care why she's there. It was kind of sick why she was there anyways. I think this film was great as far as it shines a light on mental health, which it's a story that needs to be told. But reading interviews and stuff, it was about not objectifying women. But then he stuck them all like in bikinis and schoolgirl outfits and stilettos and made them kick ass. So I think he missed the mark with his own movie. So we're going to dial some of that back too. Put a little more clothing on him. And I think I honestly think that if they take out the beginning of why she's there and they leave the ending, because the ending, it does end on the asylum scene, I think that would have been such a great twist to go, oh my God, this whole thing never happened because she's in an asylum. That would have been cool. That would have been like Sixth Sense, I see dead people. I mean,
Spoiler. Just kidding.
Right. But I really think there's good meat to this movie. He just Snyder-fied it and made it too explodey, rapey. Snyder. But I think other than that, if you take out a few scenes that really left you really, really confused, it'd be a good movie. And my fix would be to take out the beginning of the stepfather killing the sister that put her in an asylum. Because really, other than that, it has no play in the movie whatsoever. It's just another sick part that was uncalled for. So that's how I would fix that.
So you would unsnyder it.
Pretty much.
Fair enough. Nobody's surprised by this, by the way. Just saying.
I mean, like I said, it is a good movie, and I think we had talked about it before. It was like, I wonder if he used to make music videos. Well, he did.
She
and
says.
I think Sucker Punch was kind of his trying to break out of that, and he didn't quite know how to transition his storytelling from music to a film. So I'll give him that benefit of a doubt and help him out and be like, cut this, and you need a Newman cut instead of a Snyder's cut.
Release the Newman cut.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hashtag Newman cut.
Maybe we can get a protest going.
Right?
Restore the Newman verse.
Oh, God. Please, no. But anyway.
Some of the characters I did like. I mean, Baby's story was cool once you figured it out. And I think that's another place he went wrong, is he wanted all these flashy symbols. And sometimes with an audience, you just need to spell it out and go, hey, dum-dum, she's crazy. So
Well,
that's how I'd fix it.
some people
But it
need to
does
have it
still need to-
spoon-fed to them.
Yep. Well, I mean,
So you're saying give them a Marvel movie?
yeah. Let them play with their universe for a while.
There's a thought.
I think he could have done so much with this movie. Because at the end, it's kind of like with the... I hate to go too far into this. It was about males objectifying women, and at the end with the whole ending, it was kind of like, boom, you've been watching these girls in bikinis. You're the males we're talking about. You've just been sucker punched, And I think that's how he came out with that. But it was kind of like, you missed the mark about oogling women when you stuck them in bikinis and stilettos.
That's just a build up to the point. That's all. You can't gut punch somebody for checking out women who are wearing actual clothes. Come on. That's not fair.
But you can't really complain when they've been looking at. If you stick boobs in someone's face, they're gonna look, And then you can't go,
No.
I can't believe you looked at my boobs. Well, get them out of my face then.
We're gonna start dancing down some dangerous roads here if we're not careful.
Well, we can throw some music behind it and make a video
that'll make it all okay, right? Just pretend we're in the 80s and everything's fine.
Right.
The Liz cut.
Yeah. I mean, there were some pretty cool fight scenes and stuff in there. I mean, it's always cool when you see a chick kick ass. Not that we can't, but you just don't see it very often. So that part of it was really nice. But then he went too far. This is why they have director's cuts.
Go figure.
Right.
He went too far.
But yes, that is the only Snyder film I have on my list.
Yay.
So, yep. Some of those I don't think need to be remade. They just need to be put in the garbage.
Exactly. Alrighty.
Okay.
My trick here is to figure out which one to lead off with. I'm going to go with the old one first. And mine, I have three of them here, and there's definitely a theme happening here, and that theme is story. My movies all have major issues with story, and my first one is The Terror. This is from, I believe it was 1959 or so, late 50s. It's a Roger Corman movie, and this is the movie that he made immediately after making The Raven, on the same sets. And the deal was, and the way I believe it was Nicholson described it in the Corman's World documentary that I watched a few weeks ago, or a couple months ago. I don't know how long ago it was. I'm not gonna lie. Basically, what happened was Corman had a little bit of money left over at the end of The Raven, and he was like, "Screw it, let's make another movie." And this time, I mean, Vincent Price had to leave, so he still had Nicholson and he still had Boris Karloff. So he's like, "Okay, let's just start shooting a movie," and sort of just had like a 20-minute meeting and came up with a loose storyline. And honestly, that was about the extent of the writing for this movie. My problem is it really does, the movie actually builds a pretty good atmosphere. It's nice and dark, and there's some weird shit going on, but the problem is that you never really know what's going on, and there's this one character who's very in and out, who's actually ends up being the focus of the whole thing at the end, which kind of doesn't make sense that way. She's kind of supernatural, and there's just kind of no other way to explain it by the end because she's done so much weird crap, and there's just some weird continuity issues in this whole thing. My thing is, you've got Karloff, you've got Nicholson. Don't waste the moment. Write a damn story. Take a week. Write the story. It doesn't. I mean, this is Corman in the 50s and 60s. There wasn't a lot of time spent on story, but the movies that he had that did well were movies that made sense, even if they made a very weird sort of sense, like the one that I'm blanking on the name of at the moment, so that's not very helpful. Um, whatever.
I've had that.
Yeah, tonight even. But anyway, um, my thing is this movie needs if this movie had a story, it could have been great. Because you got, I mean, even with what little you had, you still get some pretty good performances. I mean, Karloff is Karloff; he can do anything. Um, Nicholson wanders around confused quite a bit of the movie. But it wouldn't have taken much story. It wouldn't have taken much plot to fix that because he's Nicholson. He can do that sort of thing. You get Dick Miller doing some strange stuff, but again, if you have he's the butler for in the castle. He's the butler to Karloff's character. Again, he can be useful in that role if he has a role because if there's a story. So I mean, I almost want to sit down. I mean, because the moment's gone. You don't have Karloff and Nicholson anymore. But I think it might be interesting to come up with a story that matches some of what was happening in the movie, and make a movie from that. And you have to find ways to. I mean, casting it would be interesting, but not impossible. And I mean, it's in my opinion, this is kind of a low-hanging fruit sort of thing. It's not like one of the worst movies ever made that you hear about. You see lists of the worst movies ever made. It's not really on that list, but it's probably an honorable mention on some of those lists. So I think this is my attempt at low-hanging fruit. I think we write a story that takes advantage of some of the scenery. And I mean, you have to go either back to those places or find places that are similar and create something interesting out of that. I think it wouldn't necessarily even be all that hard to do. But I feel like there needs to be some sort of effort to fix what went wrong with the Terror.
Yeah.
Interesting choice. Yeah.
I don't know if any of you guys have even seen this movie, but
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but yeah.
I have seen it too, and I understand what you're saying, but I somewhat enjoyed the movie also, and I'm sure you did too.
Mm-hmm.
But Corman was noted for his Fast and Furious method. Look at the Little Shop of Horrors.
That's the one I couldn't remember the name of.
Little Shop of Horrors was done in record time, and it survived. It's considered a classic. With Nicholson there, just take your time, because if you need to expand the character, don't worry. Nicholson is there. He's going to stretch everything he can out of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, yeah, give him a story and things will go much better for sure.
Okay.
My first choice, and there are so many different ways to go.
I know it's hard.
My
Right?
first, I'm going with a real dud, and it was considered the revival of the buddy movies, making you want to think of Hope and Crosby. The movie was Ishtar. Ishtar was hard to sit through, and to me it plodded, but if they would have remade it with different actors that actually knew comedy, it could have gone better. If Hope and Crosby were available to, to do it, it would have done well. But the pairing they had was so forgettable and so unreliable. I look at what Elaine May, the director, said when she said, if all those people that hated my movie went to see it, I'd be a millionaire. And that's about right. Because she was constantly under attack for this. And to me, it wouldn't have been that difficult to recast the main characters. It would have flowed so much easier, so much better in my estimation. But once again, they didn't ask me. So
Those fools.
I got nothing to say.
Yeah, you look at it, and it's a movie that had everything going for it, and somehow still just didn't work. And the idea that, I mean, you talk about recasting the main actors. I mean, we're talking about, this is 1987. We're talking about Warren Beatty and Dustin Hoffman, two of the hottest actors in Hollywood at the time.
True.
And it's just mind blowing that they couldn't get it together. I don't know. It's very weird. I guess there's been a lot said about that movie anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's amazing that they couldn't do funny, apparently.
And I enjoyed the movie, but I just felt like it lacked so much. So that's where I found it. Just was something that did not hit on all cylinders.
Well, and it's funny, Mike just mentioned that, something about them not able to do funny, but oh my God, one of the
you look at Hoffman, he did The Graduate.
Well, even more recent to this film, Tootsie.
See,
Yeah.
but there's a trick to Tootsie. Tootsie is actually I'm not it's easy to think of Tootsie as a comedy, but I'm not really sure it was. I mean, it's got a few funny moments, but mostly it's kind of awkward humor based on the fact that Hoffman's character was really awkward. I mean, so was it comedy? I don't know. I kind of need. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I don't remember laughing a lot when I saw it. I don't know.
I kind of agree with that.
Certainly more funny than anything Warren Beatty ever did. Intentionally, anyway.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Dick
all I can
Tracy
think of
was
is
pretty funny.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah, I'm not sure the subject matter for that counts as comedy anyway.
Heaven Can Wait.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Which one?
Heaven Can Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. I don't
That too was on my list.
Anyway. Well, for me, you might see a little bit of a trend with my list, but we'll see. But I was so excited that this movie was being made. I went to go see it in the theater, and I was so disappointed. The cast was pretty good. It was pretty strong. My problem with it was they decided they think they needed to make it more interesting by adding somewhat supernatural aspects to it and steampunk to the film. And I just thought, well, okay, that's going to bring more people in to see this film. And I'm talking about Jonah Hex.
I almost picked that one too.
If they handled it as a strict Western, I think, and rework the story a little bit, I think it would have been fine. I think that was, it was very disappointing to me because it was just like, Hex is, didn't really need this. He's just, he's loosely based off of the Clint Eastwood characters from the, Good, Bad, and Ugly and Fistful of Dollars in those films. He was kind of loosely based off that, and it just, if it had been handled as a more, I don't want to say pure Western, but just a little bit more straightforward, just concentrate on the story. I mean, Josh Brolin, I thought was fine as Hex. And, of course, you have Malkovich as a bad guy. And, of course, he's always good when he's a bad guy. So it was so disappointing.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's like Hollywood has forgotten how to make Westerns or something in the last 20 years.
It's almost like, it's not a popular genre, so we got to do something to make it, supposedly make it more interesting. But it's just like,
we got to sci-fi it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to make a Western, not a Western.
There are ways to do that, but it means using other genres, and that's fine. But you're not making a Western at that point.
That's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with making a Western, though.
Right. Jonah Hex it's a Western. I mean, straight up. There's kind of not really any good way to disguise it. If you're making a Jonah Hex movie that's not a Western, you're not making a Jonah Hex movie, and you're kind of wasting time and effort. You might as well have just made a Western.
What was the last good Western you saw? Silverado?
Briscoe County.
She's not wrong.
Yeah.
That was after Silverado, so she's not wrong.
Unforgiven.
Okay.
That's more recent. I'm not sure how long ago that was. I'm trying to think of. I know there was a remake to 310 to Yuma, but I have not seen that one, so I don't know. I've seen the original. It's been for forever, but I've seen it.
Unforgiven was 92.
Yeah, there had been something since. Well, I mean, like I said, 310 and Yuma, but there had been something else since then. I'm drawing a blank right now.
310 to Yuma was 90, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. There's not a lot of them that come out, so it's just,
Yeah.
All right, Liz.
All right. For my next one, it's actually, they always say don't read the book and then go watch the movie, and that's what I did. And that would be Stephen King's Needful Things. I think I've ranted about this before. If they would have taken the book and just went straight from the book, it would have been perfect. I mean, Stephen King, the way he writes, whether he's writing as Bachman or himself, he has a way of telling you a story where you see the story. You know where he's going. You can almost taste the air around you. That's how wonderful he writes. But when it came to this movie, he dropped the ball. he allowed them to change things and in essence actually changed the story. So I would go back and take those things out and put the way the book was written the way it was meant. I don't know if I have such a hard time with this movie because, like I said, I had this picture in my head already of what the story was, and it wasn't what he put on the big screen. But most of the time, Stephen King is pretty good at translating onto the big screen. I mean, you've got Carrie and Cujo and Firestarter, which were his early ones that were just great. Difference also is they took a little while in between the books. Needful Things was wrote in 91, and he made the movie in 93, or he allowed the movie to be made in 93. So I think it was still fresh in people's mind. So I would take out the non-essential book stuff, and the puppy was a puppy. It wasn't a Rottweiler. But even down to some of the things that the people picked up in the shop were different in the book than they were in the movie. Now, the way the book worked is these things, it didn't make sense at first why a guy would want a raccoon tail, hanging from his car. But later on down the road, the deal he made to get that played in, and you could go, oh, okay, that's why he, made a deal with him. So it was really cool because, like I said, it wasn't known up front what was going on until everything started playing into each other. Well, when you take those objects out, or what's the word I'm looking for? The reasoning behind buying those objects have changed. The story just didn't flow as smoothly as it did in the book. It came off better on the page because there was a build up there. I don't know if, like in my last one, it was kind of like, here it is, spell it out. Maybe he spelled it out too much. I don't know. But to me, it was like the whole environment and everything was just so different. And had I have seen the movie, I don't think I would have read the book. So that was kind of a bummer. And this was one of the first books, too, that he put out after his Bachman series. So I think that was another thing, is people were excited. A lot of people didn't know he was writing under Bachman. So the book, when Needful Things came out, it kind of hit good because they're like, King's back, So maybe there was too much excitement built up before the movie. I don't know. I'd have to say that was the start of him letting people change his work, that just kind of, it changed the work. So that's how I would change it. I would make it the book. If you want a book movie, make a book movie. But if you wanted to make a devil running a thrift shop, then name it something else.
To be fair, he's been very critical about the adaptations of his work. There's very few films he's actually praised adapting his work. So that's something that's always been an issue. So
yeah, I could see that, because this one they totally changed it. Not as bad as Lawnmower Man changed. Now that was, what the hell is this? This was nowhere in the story. So, but yeah, this one was a letdown. This was my first King letdown.
Well, it wasn't King's first King letdown. That's
no,
for sure.
I was about to say, I forgot there was Maximum Overdrive before this. So
See,
that
now
was my first
you got nobody to blame for Maximum Overdrive but Stephen King and a big pile of cocaine. That's all you can blame for that. That is all there is to it.
Yeah. And see, and that was another thing about Needful Things. This was the first book he wrote after his addiction, after he won that battle.
Cleaned up, right.
Yeah. So I think for him, too, it kind of proved, hey, I can still do this. I don't need that to do this, But I could see him being unhappy because as a reader, like I said, he paints you the story. There's nothing you need to add, He paints the beautiful story to you. But I guess fueled up on acid and cocaine, I might paint a beautiful story.
See, and that's the trick, though, with film adaptations of books is King, or especially with King, because King, you don't have to read a lot of his books to recognize how accessible a writer he is.
Yeah.
He does, like I said, he spells it out. They're really well done. The dude knows how to tell a story, and he knows how to use words, and you're always going to have trouble translating that to a movie. No matter who you let do it, no matter how much time you take, because there's always more in a book than there ever can be in a movie. And so what can you cut from such a well-woven story and still make a decent movie out of it? And that's a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
So you kind of almost have to do what Kubrick did and kind of go off on your own a little bit. You start with the idea and just sort of go nuts, and King's going to hate it.
Yeah.
But it's going to do pretty damn well. But that's as much because you're Kubrick as anything else.
Yeah. My thing wasn't what he cut. It's what they changed. Like I said, the main problem I had, which was a major catalyst in his film, was the puppy. The puppy, he barked all the time, when she left the house and everything. Of course, it's a puppy. You almost expect that. It's a cute, sweet little puppy. Well, then they wind up killing the puppy in the book. Spoiler alert. They wind up killing the puppy in the book because she didn't like the dog barking all the time. Well, in the movie, they changed the puppy to a Rottweiler. I'm talking like Cujo kind of Rottweiler. Well, of course nobody minded when the dog died because the dog was an asshole. He was snapping and barking and lunging at people and everything else. It wasn't a stable dog to where in the book, with it being a puppy, killed for being a puppy, it really grabbed your heart and was like, what monster would do that, to where a Rottweiler was kind of, I'm an animal lover.
Like, finally.
Of course, I'd still be upset, but I would still kind of be,
About damn time they killed that dog. Jeez.
Right. Next thing you know, he's going to be foaming at the mouth kind of thing, because that's the unstable dog that they had portrayed in this. So you didn't really mind. But in the book, that was kind of, it upset a lot of people to where that was the turning point. That was that's what he's doing, So you kind of miss that aha moment in the movie because you changed the main catalyst there.
Mm-hmm. Because
well,
whoever was making the movie didn't think that was important for some reason.
Yeah. See, if I was King, I would have went and slapped him and said, "Hey."
You're assuming King was directly involved in this. He might not have been. I don't know one way or the other, but I think a lot of them he hasn't been involved with, and then that's kind of his way of justifying being critical later, is because it wasn't his thing. Right.
And I think most of the ones that he was involved in, he did cameos for. And I don't think he had a cameo in this one. So
there you go.
But like I said, to me, that was the point where he had you by the heart. And then when they killed the dog, he just crushed it. So you really miss that. Now I want to go kill that lady,
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of glossed over.
Tangent time.
Mm-hmm.
What was the best adaptation of a King story?
I don't know if it's because I saw it first, my first introduction to King. My favorite has always been Firestarter. And for me, it's because it's not a gory, scary horror kind of thing. It was a kid who had a special ability and the government freaked out, And I think, too, because it was a kid, that it kind of resonated with me. Drew Barrymore was so popular at that time. So, well, to me, because that was her starting point, To me, that was my favorite.
How about you guys?
I have not seen enough of them to judge, to be honest.
Wasn't The Shining also King?
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't
I
seen The
think that's
Shining
probably
since I
his
was
best
9 years
known.
old, but
Yeah. And of course, I didn't know until you guys told me the other night, but Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
That
Yep.
that was just on the other day, and we stopped and watched it. Because, wow.
That's the one that I think is the best adaptation.
It is good.
Yeah.
it's certainly his best poking things with a stick movie.
And, wow, look at the careers it launched. You had, Will Wheaton, Jerry O'Connell, um, Corey Feldman, and River Phoenix. I mean, they were kids, and then they all went on to do great things. And
Kiefer Sutherland.
Keith Sutherland, yep, he went on to be a vampire after that.
Yeah.
Went from one asshole to another. But yeah, I love that movie. Sick balls, Chopper.
Wow.
That's the best part of the whole movie. That and the leeches.
That and the leeches?
That's what she said.
That's
Is
what
that what
she
you said?
Yes.
I think we got another
was-
title option.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good part of the movie too.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
actually
yeah.
that's a pretty good title there.
Mhm.
And the leeches.
And the leeches.
That and the leeches.
Every man in the audience was going, oh, God. And she's laughing it off.
I think that's probably for me why it was the best part.
I can't even pretend to be surprised by this, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not true. Yeah, what am I thinking?
But Carrie was pretty good too. There was differences from the book, of course, but I think that stayed pretty on. They're all gonna laugh
Depends
at
which
you.
version.
I didn't like the newer ones at all. That one was bad. For me, Carrie will always be Sissy Spacek. She just humble, the looks, everything. That's what Carrie looked like in the book. The way they played her down, and she wasn't gorgeous. I mean, I don't think she was ugly, but she, was just kind of plain Jane.
True.
Alrighty.
Okay.
So my next one, this I don't know if this is going to be controversial or not.
Probably.
Insert. My selection here is insert any even tangentially related Dungeons and Dragons movie, because they're threatening to do another one. I mean, I say that they've been threatening for like 3 or 4 years now. I have no idea if it's even happening or if there's anything going on at all with it, but there have been, I believe, 2 official ones.
I think you're right.
And several.
In the cartoon.
Yeah, and the cartoon. I'm not gonna include the cartoon in this because the cartoon probably came closest to doing it right.
Probably, yeah.
If there is a doing it right, and that's actually kind of my point with this is the idea of, the simple idea of a Dungeons and Dragons movie doesn't inherently make sense because the idea of Dungeons and Dragons is not in and of itself a story. So the deal is you're starting with a movie that doesn't have a story. Dungeons and Dragons is a game in which people build stories for fun and to kill time. And apparently to make shitloads of money on YouTube, but that's a different problem. That's a more recent thing. D&D was around a long time before Critical Role, and I'm not knocking them. More power to them. They made a shit ton of money off of a D&D game. But the deal is, there's not really a way to base a movie on a game like that. You have to come up with a story that you can set in a D&D like setting and that's fine. But it's really more of a setting than a story. And I think honestly that's why this hasn't worked, is because I don't think anybody who's actually tried to make a D&D movie understands that. You can't just throw a few things in there that look like D&D and call it a movie. Because if you do that, you don't have a story. And none of the D&D movies have had stories yet. And it has showed very much. So the deal here is, if you're going to make a story, or if you're going to make a movie based in any way on Dungeons and Dragons, there's a ton of written stuff out there. There's a ton of existing written material out there for it that are actually stories. There have been wildly successful novels based on D&D properties. The deal is, you've got to pick one of those properties and actually make a movie of that. It really wouldn't be that hard to pick. I mean, there's some ridiculously popular ones to this day. I mean, stuff that was written in the late 70s and early 80s, still wildly popular in the circles. Pick a novel that was written 40 years ago and make a movie from that, and stop fooling around trying to make up your own shit for this, because it doesn't work, because the people who are trying to do that don't know what they're doing. And I just kind of wish they would stop trying to make D&D movies, because it's not going to work until somebody plops down the money that they're going to have to pay to actually license the property of something that is actually a property and has a story to it.
Yeah. I can see that. But there's hope. They finally did Mortal Kombat right, so.
After the third time?
At least.
There was more than 3.
I thought there were 3 to start with.
Was there?
Yeah.
There was like 6 or
there might have been more. That's just what I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, that was loosely based on another video game that they were trying to not encroach on the intellectual property of at the time, and then they ended up making a video game of Mortal Kombat, and yeah, that's a fun rabbit hole if you want to go down it sometime.
There you go, Liz.
Oh, no more rabbit holes, man.
She needs a break.
I jumped
from
down a rabbit hole and landed in a volcano.
On a roller coaster, apparently.
On a roller coaster. Straight into the gates of hell.
That'll turn you off of rabbit holes real quick.
All because I was like, does it make land in Hawaii?
Okay, Les?
I am going to go with a movie I really enjoy, and I would love to see it done. Robot Monster. Robot Monster is a bad movie. I will admit that. But I think that it could be done so much better now. Not even CGI. But keep the cost low. Make it a Roger Corman type movie. And do away with some of the gimmicks. The bubble producer is one of them. The other is the robot monster itself with the gorilla costume and a diving helmet on its head. This is a movie that has a story. It has a point. But with all the gimmicks, and they did this just to appease the public, I think it could have been handled differently and brought about, well, I'm going to say, do it now, and it would appeal to a wider audience, because you could add a little more story to it and not make it similar to the Who Shot JR episode, the final of that
We were all dreaming.
gathering. Yep. I mean, that's what it is. A boy has a dream. Sorry about the spoiler, but that's the way that goes.
To remake that with any level of seriousness would be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think they could even accomplish that because it is, in its present state, it's goofy. And the public would sneer, I'm sure, unless they got Zack Snyder to do it.
see, now I think the key here is to
Michael Bay.
is to rename it. You just do. You get rid of all of the William Castle gimmicky shtick bullshit, and you come up with a new name for it, and then you just remake the movie straight up and see what happens. I mean, you're gonna obviously you're gonna improve the production values dramatically, and let's just see what it looks like. You know. I mean, I don't know where we're gonna get a gorilla suit with a diving helmet these days anyway. So, I mean, the monster's going to look different. And once the monster looks different, you don't have to call it Robot Monster anymore. You name it something else. And don't even call it whatever the hell you want. Name it after the main character, the one that Beverly Garland played. I don't remember what her name was. Name it after her or something. Doesn't matter. But the deal is, if you call it Robot Monster, then yeah, you're gonna lose any attempt at credibility. But if you can distract people from the fact that this is a straight up remake, you're in.
I can understand that.
Shady as hell, but you're in.
Got you looking.
Maybe we can add some leeches to this movie. I don't know.
There you go. Alrighty. For me, my second choice, I would go ahead and do a brand new cast and rework the script. And I'm surprised, honestly, we don't have not only not a remake, but just another film based off this character, especially since she's really popular now. Red Sonja.
I didn't know she had a movie.
Oh yeah, Brigitte
Oh,
Nielsen.
Yeah, it was after the
Maybe I did know that then.
the two Schwarzenegger Conans.
I did know that then, yeah.
And Schwarzenegger was in it.
It was fairly forgettable.
Yeah.
And that was the same time around Barbarella, wasn't it?
Oh no,
No.
Red Sonja was the 80s.
Yeah.
Barbarella was the late 60s.
Okay.
It's just I'm surprised nothing's been done with this character in terms of movies or films. But yeah, this is gosh.
She certainly had a hell of a resurgence in the comics.
Yeah.
So why not, right?
She has, yeah. Almost a rebirth. I had to.
Did you?
I really wanted to like this film. And
and they made it so hard to like it.
Yeah. You bring in the prince who's only 9 or 10 years old, but is able to kick everybody's ass. Okay. All right, whatever. It's just So yeah, let's redo this one.
I'm down.
Well, they say there's one in the works.
Oh, there's always something in the works.
Yeah, there's a D&D movie in the works too. So what?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it'll happen.
They say that Millennium Company has taken it, and it's going to be based on the Dynamite comics. So
That would be fantastic, but
Hmm.
we will see.
Yeah.
They may just be saying that because Dynamite owns the rights right now.
Yep. Okay, Liz.
All right. Quick and easy. New movie, Godzilla versus King Kong.
Oh Lord.
I liked I liked the monsters fighting, but they needed to take out the whole storyline with Millie Bobby Brown. I love the actress. She's cute. She's sweet. I just hated her in this film. There was absolutely no reason to have that storyline even going on. It added nothing to the story at all, you know? They could cut it all and you'd never even know there was supposed to be something there, you know? The only part of the acting I would leave in is the part where they're explaining, like when Mothra wakes up, you know, who she is to Godzilla and that kind of thing. I think this, like I said, it could have been a really good movie, but they added two storylines into this movie that shouldn't have. It should have all been about the monsters. This is the fight we've been waiting to see. Let it happen. So that's what I would do. I would take out the bad acting and just leave the monsters.
See, I've never gotten into kaiju movies, primarily because I've never seen one that I like the story for.
Yeah.
It just
Or
never makes,
the acting.
it just
Well,
never
you
makes
know-
any sense.
They showed us Kong's world, and it was pretty cool. I wish we would have seen more of that, you know? Maybe give us an inside peek to where, you know, Godzilla's world, too. That would have been cool. Kind of more backstory on them.
So we needed
Would've
to
been cool.
MCU it up and make a Godzilla movie, and then a Kong movie, and then the Godzilla
Well,
versus Kong movie.
I'd say
There you
if
go.
you had to add filler to take out all the acting, that's where I would have went with. I would have stayed more in the Kong world, and actually, I would have had the fight there. But I know, in the middle of a city, whoo, you know.
Well, that's
But
the whole point.
that's
is
where I would have
destruction.
left it. Because a lot of it just didn't make sense. So. But the fighting was cool, and it was good.
Honestly, do any of these make sense? But, well, the whole genre.
Yeah.
No, and it kind of doesn't bother anybody, so I don't worry
Yeah.
about it too much.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because it's about the monsters,
Mhm.
right? You're overlooking a lot of bad acting and ad-libbing and lips not matching words for the monsters.
Well, you're
That's what
making
they
it.
should have gave us.
You're making it on the cheap, other than the dude in the rubber suit. Now that's the important part. And I mean, in this case, the dude in the rubber suit is a huge computer, which is making a bunch of CGI, and that's fine.
Right.
But yeah, the deal is they're cheaping out on the rest of the movie so that they can focus on the monsters. And if they would just kind of be a little more honest with themselves about that, yeah, it would improve things greatly, I think.
Yeah. And I will admit, Kong got his butt handed to him a couple of times. And then at the end, it was kind of like, oh, we've got a greater evil to fight. So, you know, they joined forces and... Spoiler! But had it not been for the third monster to come in, like I said, I won't spoil this because it is a newer movie. If it wouldn't have been for the third monster, Kong would have gotten his butt kicked. That would have been the end of the movie right there.
Good to know.
But it was good.
Yeah. Yeah. If Kong hadn't said Martha.
Yeah. Ursula said Mothra.
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 Oh, damn. That should not be that funny. It really shouldn't. Oh, man. Okay. I have a third one. And this one might surprise some people who know me. My third choice is The Hobbit. I think that there were some significantly large mistakes made when Peter Jackson made the Hobbit movies. For one, I think Peter Jackson making the Hobbit movies was probably the big mistake. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved the Lord of the Rings movies. The problem, and the problem I have is that The Hobbit is not the same kind of story. They let him make what he made of The Hobbit because The Lord of the Rings was so damn successful.
Uh-huh.
The difference is that The Lord of the Rings is a 1,000-page novel, and I'm calling it that specifically. Yes, it was broken into 3 volumes when it was sold, but that was a function of the publisher, not the author. It was one story. It was one book. The Hobbit was a 230-ish page story basically aimed at his kids. Yes, it came first. And also, yes, in the 15-year course of writing The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien actually went back and changed The Hobbit. He actually talked his publisher into reprinting an edited version of The Hobbit to match some of the stuff he did in The Lord of the Rings. That does not make it the same kind of story. The changes that he made were essentially putting just the slightest bit more emphasis on the ring itself. That's it. Otherwise, there is a bunch of stuff in what were printed as an appendix to The Lord of the Rings that involved some story bits about stuff that was going on at the same time as The Hobbit. And they also, when Tolkien died, his estate published a 14-volume set of books that basically outlined his writing process, because dude was a meticulous note taker and kept notes on everything and rewrote things multiple times.
Wow.
So yeah, 14 books full of stuff. I've got them all right here on my shelf, because I'm kind of nuts that way. So yeah, what Peter Jackson did was he went through and he culled a bunch of stuff out of all of that to build The Hobbit into a Lord of the Rings like story. I don't think he did The Hobbit any justice in doing this. Are the movies terrible? No. Are the movies necessary? No. I want to see a single movie of The Hobbit. Is it going to be like the animated one from the 70s? Probably not. Although, honestly, it might be closer to that than to what Peter Jackson did. Because the deal is you've got the story of this guy, this little person, this very small person, who is introduced to a much larger world. And turns out to be, gets put in danger multiple times through the course of the story, and turns out to be, honestly, the luckiest son of a bitch ever walked the world to Earth, and gets through all of it. That's the story. It's honestly almost more of a horror story than an adventure. It's right on the edge. I mean, the only reason it's not true horror is because he actually walks away. He wins. But it's blind stinking luck that makes him win. It's like I said, it's a very different story. And I would like to see that done like that.
Now, out of the Peter Jackson stuff, I'd have to say The Hobbit for me was the hardest to watch. It wasn't as grab your attention and, keep you going the way the Lord of the Rings did. Mm-hmm. It's like something was missing there.
And that's after went through and tried to add more of that to it, because there's none of that stuff. It's not an action movie. There are some action scenes, sort of, in the book. Nothing like you get in the Lord of the Rings, and certainly nothing like he did like Jackson did in the Lord of the Rings movies. There's just anything like that is added.
Now, how close is the animated to the book?
The animated is very close to the book. The animated is, honestly, it's the book probably done slightly tongue-in-cheek. So it actually, I think it deserves to be taken a little more seriously than that. But it's, I mean, if I were to recommend one of the filmed versions of it, it would definitely be the animated one.
Animated.
And I mean, there's more singing in it than I'm comfortable with, because I'm just not a musical guy. But there's singing in it, and it's a little bit of a different experience, but it's definitely closer to the book.
That's cool.
I have that too.
But let's remember, it's not like Lord of the Rings and Grease. So the singing is there, but that's Bakshi's touch. He was the one that wanted that.
Right. I mean, and
Yeah.
honestly, the deal is the singing that's happening, the songs, they're actually in the book. So it's not like those were added. I mean, they were maybe fiddled with a little bit, but in some spots. But for the most part, the singing that's going on in the animated movie is stuff that's written in poetic form in the book.
Yes.
And most of it is described as songs that the people are singing. So it's there and it's real. Yeah, I think the way it was, like I said, I think it was taken a little less seriously than it should have been for that version, and that's fine. It works okay. I would like to see a slightly more serious version though, a live action.
So a mix between the two.
Yeah, somewhere between.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Alrighty.
My choice is a movie I just want to see redone. I think it's a good movie standing by itself, but with the new actors we have now, I can see a redo of this and still kill at the box office. That's Career Opportunities. The movie with Frank Whaley and Jennifer Connelly. This was 30 years ago. Yeah, 91. 30 years ago that this one was done, and this movie still brings a smile to my face when I see it. It's just funny, witty, and not that it's got terror in it, but it's got a little tweak here and there. So I would like to see the new actors try this one.
Cool.
Interesting. I never heard of this.
Yeah.
Oh, John Hughes. Interesting.
Frank Whaley is a do nothing. He's floating by in life. And Jennifer Connelly is daughter to the richest man in town, and they cross paths.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. For me, I like the original version. I just wish it would have been a little bit more faithful to the source material. Because I thought I would think it would be very interesting to watch Don't want to go with the doesn't necessarily have to do storyline that was in the film. They can go a different route, but stay just something a little bit more faithful. And my film is The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Take out the American characters. They really didn't add anything to the film. You know, supposedly they were added to build in interest for the American moviegoers, but I'm like, really, Tom Sawyer and Dorian Gray? Okay. I don't get that, but okay.
How you can try to pass off Dorian Gray as a good guy is a little beyond me anyway. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. And in the books, it was Mina that was running the team. She was the leader, which I thought was kind of interesting considering the time frame. But they didn't want to do that in the movie, so we get Sean Connery's Alan Quartermain. I'm like, okay. Anyway, so. But I always loved the concept of the team, and it would have been interesting to see these characters. And and there could have been a potential of a franchise, but
not if you ruin the first one.
Yeah, that's true.
Who the hell made that movie? Does anybody even know?
What, the studio?
No, the director.
I don't remember who directed it. Let me look here real quick.
Oh, it was that guy.
Stephen Norrington. Wow, has he done anything else ever? I shouldn't be mean to the guy. I mean, jeez. Sure, he did the best he could with what he had. I mean, he directed Blade, for crying out loud. How bad can he be?
Well,
He did what again?
He directed Blade.
Oh, that's how bad it can get.
The first one was okay.
matter of fact, League was his last credit as a director.
Mm-hmm.
He did Death Machine, then Blade, then The Last Minute, and
then he was done.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
His name has been thrown around for other stuff, but nothing that ever panned out.
Yeah, but League was 2003.
Yeah.
So, so almost 20 years later. So, I mean, he's obviously working on other stuff, but as a director,
Yep. Anyway, didn't mean to throw it into that tangent, but
that's okay.
because there's definitely there were some odd choices in that movie for sure.
Yep.
The idea of a high-speed car chase in 1880 seemed a little strange, to say the least, but whatever. Again, they didn't ask us.
No.
It may have been a better
Demand
movie
that they
if they
start
did.
talking to us.
Yep. We can cast for them.
We keep putting these things out every week. They should come around just any time now.
Hey, I think somebody listened to me with Jensen Ackles, so keep throwing it out there. Manifest. Heck, tomorrow, as a matter of fact, Batman: The Long Halloween, where Jensen Ackles is playing Batman, or the voice of Batman, it comes out tomorrow. Yay!
So oh man!
You're not a fan, are you?
Oh no! I mean, he just did it in time for my birthday is all, you know.
It was all for
Wow.
you, Liz.
That was on purpose. I know it was.
All for you.
Let's make sure we get that in the recording.
Oh, hell yeah. We're still going.
All right, some very interesting choices. Did anybody else have any others?
No.
No,
I had a few kick around, but
nothing you're willing to share now.
yeah. Well, I was thinking if we were running short on time.
We're not. Not even a little.
One of the movies that we had talked really badly about during Horror Fest was Nothing But the Night. So I was going to ask how you guys would fix that, but I don't think we have time for that.
Wow, dodged a bullet there.
Right. So which of the 5 stories going on in that movie would you keep?
I want to have to study for that one.
Right.
All right. Well, hope y'all enjoy that. And if you have some extra time, go back and listen to our original episode. That was episode 11. And check out those choices. And we would love to hear some movies that you feel that ought to be bad films that should be remade. Go ahead and send them our way. We would love to hear them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on that note, we are going to take a quick break and be back with our weekly picks. And we're back. It's time for our weekly picks, and this week I lead off. And for my first choice, I'm going with a miniseries from Boom Studios entitled Buffy the Vampire Slayer Tea Time. And this miniseries is focusing on our favorite watcher, Rupert Giles. But apparently, and I'm behind on the main book, but apparently he's a vampire now. So that's going to be interesting. Because if you're familiar with the show and all that, Giles is back in his early days. He was kind of a dark person. Dabbled with magic and all that. So he can be a formidable foe. And now you turn him into a vampire. That's going to be interesting.
That will be cool.
So, I want to check this one out.
Should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It does sound fun.
Alrighty, Les, you're next.
My first choice is from Source Point Press, Broken Gargoyles, Sin and Virtue #1. This one intrigues me because it is about some main characters who seek out the widow of a fallen brother in arms who was trying to keep their farmland. And another character teams up with a U.S. Marshal, to capture escaped convicts. So this has got 2 storylines going, and that's what appeals to me, plus the fact that it is based on crime. So I'm going to make sure that my dealer has this ready for me.
His dealer.
His dealer.
Makes it sound illicit, doesn't it?
I need one of them quarter pages.
Anyway, yeah, this does sound cool.
It does.
Alrighty, Liz, you're next.
All right. For my first pick, it's one from Zenescope, and it's the annual for Oz, and it's called The Patchwork Girl. They're bringing us a new villain. Woohoo! Anything Oz, and I'm down for it. Presently, in the Oz world of Zenescope, Dorothy is the queen of Emerald City. Or she's the queen of Oz, but ruler of Emerald City. But she has she doesn't want to go back home. She's given up. There's no place like home. Now Oz is her home. And, of course, all of her friends are still with her, helping her rule and everything else. So it's pretty cool what they've done with that storyline. Well, another tornado, the same kind that brought Dorothy in, has brought a new villain in, which is going to be the Patchwork Girl. If I had to describe her, I would say that she is a cross between Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas and Harley Quinn. It's like if they had a baby, there she is.
Dang.
Should be pretty good. I love the way that Zenescope always sets up their new storylines, so I can guarantee we will see a lot more of this Patchwork Girl. So, should be pretty good.
Does sound cool.
Yeah.
And they add new characters to their universe.
Sounds like fun.
Yep, definitely. Alrighty, Mikey.
Okie dokie. My first pick is from IDW, and this is a graphic novel called Chibi Usagi, Attack of the Heebie-Chibis. And yeah, it actually is kind of what it hints at. This is a chibi-style version of Usagi Yojimbo, in which he and a couple of friends rescue a little guy who needs some help, and so they go to free this little guy's village and eliminate the threat of the Salamander King forever.
Aw.
Yeah, and it's like obviously it's in the chibi style, so it's cute.
It'll be cute.
It's cute, and it's Usagi Yojimbo anyway, and I just think it sounds like fun. And I like the fact that it makes stories, these types of stories accessible to younger audiences. That's just awesome.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Alrighty. I am up again, and for my second choice, it's a one-shot from Archie Comics titled Mighty Crusaders, The Shield. Archie is trying once again to bring back their superhero line. A lot of these characters were created back in the 40s and 50s, and the Shield is one of them. As a matter of fact, I think the Shield predates Captain America by a month or so, right around that time. So this is a modern take. So I'm excited about this book. Full disclosure, we had received a copy of this to read, and I have read it, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. So I'm excited about what's coming down the pike. David Gallagher wrote this, like his writing. Rob Liefeld did the art. It looks good. So definitely check this one out. It'd be interesting to see where we go from here.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I hope they are successful so they can bring back other characters. I would love to see the Mighty Crusaders reband.
Yeah, and it seems like it's picking up some of the stuff, some of the elements that they had tried to do. It's like there's a mixture between what they were doing with the Dark Circle and some elements of the Red Circle before, so there's a little bit of a bleeding together, and that's fine. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing where we're going to go from here. So,
I like it.
Me too.
alrighty. You're next, Les.
Imagine a world is split between dreams and reality. A man's son disappears, and the man braves a dreamscape to find the boy and battle various and sundry things. This is coming from Dark Horse Comics, Parasomnia #1, written by Colin Dunn. I am ready for this. I want to see how this is going to warp like Bunn has done before. And everything that he has done that I've read has stood up. So I think it's going to be a strong book. I'm on board for it. They say for this one, if you like books like Six Gun, Harrow County, or Lock and Key, this will appeal to me, or to you. Does to me. So I'm going to make this part of my pull list too.
Cool.
Sounds exciting.
Cool. Alrighty, Liz.
All right. My second pick is actually from the DC Inc. line, which is their young adult graphic novels. And this one deals with Constantine, and it's The Mystery of the Meanest Teacher. This will follow Constantine as a 13-year-old. He has pissed off a lot of hostile spirits, and he gets moved to a boarding school over here in America. And when he gets there, he has a teacher who sounds like she's really mean. I mean, we all thought our teachers were mean, but he has in his head that she's a witch. So he hooks up with this other girl who kind of, can read things too, and they're going to find out if their teacher's a witch or not. I've really liked these that they've put out. I still think so far the best one they've did was the Breaking Glass, which was the Harley teen story. That one was really well done.
You're not biased at all, are you?
No.
No.
Well, some of them have been real hit and miss. Like the Raven one they did was just bad. It too angst,
Imagine that.
Right. So I'm hoping this one definitely sounds a lot better than that one, to where Raven was more about her daughter. So this one is actually Constantine. So
this is a Constantine story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Had to slide a dad joke in there somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm excited with this one.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Alrighty, Mikey.
Okie dokie. My second pick is from Vault Comics, and I'm picking Barbaric, #1. So our main character is called Owen. And Owen has two things that are noteworthy. He has a very large axe with a bad attitude. And he has a curse which forces him to help people. And so this has left him with a minor side effect, which is that he really hates witches. Because, obviously a witch must have cursed him. So the selling point for this book is basically violence. So I'm down.
Yeah, this was on my radar. Yeah.
Sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, definitely. Gotta love those curses.
Gotta love those really big, bloodthirsty axes, too.
All right. It's the only way to get rid of a curse.
One of my favorite ones that I've read in a comic was when Eric Larson was writing and drawing the Defenders. And I think I've talked about this before. There was the start of this series. You had Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer, Hulk, and Namor, Submariner, team up together to battle this. And I don't even remember who the bad guy was, but he was a magician or something like that. But they eventually defeated him. But the entire time they were arguing at each other. And the bad guy notices. He's like, you really hate each other. So I'm going to put a curse on you. Whenever there is a dire threat, y'all have to come together and deal with it. So from wherever in the world or the universe they're at, they automatically disappear and then reappear all together to deal with whatever the situation is, which just pisses them off even more. I was like, oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
That is pretty good.
Alrighty. Any special mentions or shout outs this week?
It is my sister's birthday tomorrow, which it'll be a week after, so happy birthday.
Hey, happy late birthday, sis.
Yeah. Alrighty, we'll move on to our regular shout-outs. I want to thank Pop Goes to Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of a great group of fellow podcasts. There will be a link in the show notes so you can check them out as well. I also want y'all to check out the fine men and women who make up Podern Family on Twitter, who've been so kind enough to spread the word of the fellowship by retweeting our links. Definitely want you to check them out. The easiest way to do that is to do a search, hashtag Podern Family, all one word, and just whatever catches your eye. Download that episode, please, and hope you have a good time listening. Thank you guys, always. Want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. There's a link in the show notes where you can check out their music. Thank you, guys. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. Appreciate your support. We value your feedback. Any questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please send them our way. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website, go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out there. We mentioned the Discord earlier. There is a section, a channel that's specifically designed for feedback. You can post something there. Or you can go to our Facebook page, The Fellowship of the Geeks. Follow us there, and you can send us a message or just post right there with the latest episode link. We are obviously on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Feel free to follow us there. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_geek. Les may or may not be found at Fake Les Webster. And I can be found at Tom TC Geek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you'd be so kind as to post a review and rate us, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for listening.
We appreciate you listening. We appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,